Want me to share the verse, Prabhuji, on the screen?
Yes, you can. You can. I'll start off with Mangalacharan, and then we can move into today's class. Om Jnana Tirmirannasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langayate Garim Yat Kripa Tamaham Bande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So today we are reading Srimad Bhagavatam. We are reading from, just 1 second, Mataji, and I know where we're reading from. We're reading from 2nd Canto, 10th chapter, 43rd verse, and this is the culmination of a very interesting section that we've been dealing with thus far. I'll read the Sanskrit. There's actually a couple of Bhagavad Gita verses as well, which I wanted to read from today, so we'll do so, but we'll read from 2:10:43. As we know, Canto 2 is called the Cosmic Manifestation, and Chapter 10 is referred to as Bhagavatam, is the answer to all questions. So, the Sanskrit. Tatha kalanki rudratma yatshishtam idam atmanaha saniyachati tatkale ghananikam ivanila. Tata, thereafter, at the end. Kala, destruction. Agni, fire. Rudra Atma, in the form of Rudra. Yat, whatever. Shrishtam, created. Idam, all these. Atmanaha, of his own. Sang, completely. Niyachati, annihilates. Tatkale, at the end of the millennium. Ghana anikam, bunches of clouds. Iva, like that of. Anilaha, air. Translation by His Divine Grace, Srila Abhay Charanarvindam Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thereafter, at the end of the millennium, the Lord Himself, in the form of Rudra, the destroyer, will annihilate the complete creation as the wind displaces the cloud. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chevam Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet. Nashta Prayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavati Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloker Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Thereafter, at the end of the millennium, the Lord himself in the form of Rudra, the destroyer, will annihilate the complete creation as the wind displaces the clouds, sorry, plural. So it's interesting, actually. Now we've got in the habit of me saying Mangalacharan first, and then Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya afterwards. So anyway, we'll have to see how to readdress that format, because we've got to stick as closely to Srila Prabhupada's standard as possible. Because if we keep on changing the recipe, then obviously the outcome, whatever it is that we're trying to create, will also be changed. And then my spiritual life will also be annihilated as the wind displaces the clouds. So purport: by his divine grace, Srila Abhay Charanarvindam Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The creation is very appropriately compared to clouds. Clouds are created or situated in the sky. And when they are displaced, they remain in the same sky without manifestation. Interesting, actually, that clouds and sky have this juxtaposition. Obviously, one of Krishna's most prominent names is Ghanasham. Ghanasham. The complexion, Krishna has the complexion of a dark, rain-filled cloud. And it's interesting, when Srila Prabhupada was in apartheid South Africa, he was giving a class in a big address, and obviously because it was apartheid, generally for there to be large gatherings of people from a whole array of different backgrounds. There were white American devotees who were there, and potentially some white Sikhs. There were black body devotees who were there, and there were Indian devotees that were there. And Srila Prabhupada said, "This is our God, and he is black." No, he said, "This is the energy of the Lord." No, sorry. No, he said, "This is the Lord, and he is black. And this is his girlfriend, and she is white." And everyone was very kind of surprised at this statement. Then Prabhupada looked out across the audience and he said, the God is black, but he is not your kind of black. He said, he is a black which is not visible within this whole material creation. So Krishna does have the complexion of a rain-filled cloud. Is it black? Is it blue? Whatever it is beyond. The closest comparison is that of a rain-filled cloud. Actually, Krishna's color does not exist within this material world. You need this special vision, param drishtva, in order to see the Supreme Lord as he is, which is why when the Lord offered his Virat Roop, his partial Virat Roop, within the Rajya Sabha, within the Darbar of Hastinapur, only Vidur, Dronacharya, and Dronacharya, and Bhishma Dev were able to see. Everybody else was blinded by the Lord's effulgence, because the Lord's true form, not even if it's true, his partial form of the Virat Roop, which we've been exploring, is only visible to those who have that higher sight. So there is no comparison to the Lord's color and the Lord's true sight, but we can say that the closest comparison is that of a rain-filled cloud. So let's carry on with this purport. Similarly, the whole creation is made by the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his form of Brahma. It is maintained by him in his form of Vishnu, and it is destroyed by him in the form of Rudra or Shiva, all in due course. So this is interesting here. The idea in Hindu iconography of three features of the Supreme Lord is often given as Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh, or Brahma, Vishnu, Rudra, Lord Shiva, Vishnu, the Supreme Lord, and Brahma. But people then become confused as to who is the Supreme Lord? Are they all parts of the Supreme Lord? Are there many lords who are supreme, but they're actually different and separated? Now, in one sense, Lord Brahma is an avatar, Lord Vishnu is an avatar, and Lord Shiva is an avatar. And they are known as guna avatars. Actually, the Lord deputes the Shakshadhari, the Ishvara Paramam in this material world, deputes Lord Brahma to be in control of the mode of passion, the mode of creation. He deputes Lord Rudra to be in control of destruction, guna, tamagun, rajagun, creation, passion, tamagun, which is ignorance. And Lord Vishnu is the maintainer. He is creating the equilibrium. You will see that in this creation, Brahma has 4 heads. In fact, Chaturmukhi Brahma. In our universe is a small universe, therefore there's 4 heads. In some universes, much larger universes, there are Brahmas with 8 heads, with 100 heads, with 1,000 heads. If you have 1,000 heads and 1,000 brains, that means you're doing a lot of activity. The 4 heads represent the 4 directions. So 1,000 heads looking in many different places, dealing with many different things. Equally, you'll see that Rudra, Lord Shiva, sometimes very popularly in South Indian iconography, he's dancing, he's doing the Tandava dance. Sometimes he's meditating. Sometimes he's riding on a bull. But whenever you see Lord Vishnu, Vishnu is only doing one thing. He's always reclining on Sheshnag. He's having his feet massaged by Lakshmi Devi. He's not engaged in anything. So we have this creative impetus of Rajagun, and we have this destructive impetus. But the maintenance, the thing is maintained by about a spark of the Supreme Lord's splendor. It doesn't require any extraneous effort because he is the Supreme Lord of everything. So in one sense, these are 3 different avatars, but there is only one Supreme Lord. There is only one who can maintain this whole universe effortlessly with but a spark of his splendor, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. And that is Vishnu. That is why Vishnu can execute his work without any extraneous effort. And yet we see that Brahma and Rudra are engaged in effort. So in one sense, they are avatars, guna avatars. But this is because of the empowerment of the Supreme Lord. Brahma is a jiva. You know, many of the devotees, whether on this course, on this call, or across the world, and in fact, many of the living entities may once have actually occupied the post of Brahma. So we shouldn't mistake that Brahma is a expansion of the Lord. Actually, that becomes a little bit complicated, but we can explain that in the way that, in comparison, an ant may look at a human being, and a human being may seem like a supreme being in comparison to the ant. He gets into a vehicle and he can drive hundreds of miles without stop. He can get into flying vehicles and he can go to far off places. He can pick up devices and he can call other parts of the planet. He has all of these screens that he can interact with. He has currency by which he can acquire goods. In fact, he can tap a few buttons and things will be delivered to his home. Amazon, eBay. In comparison to the ant, the human being appears somewhat godlike. But we all, if we are honest, we understand that we had a creator. We understand our limitations. And we understand that there are beings which even far surpass us in terms of their ability and influence. So equally, Brahma, in comparison to the human being, appears godlike. He appears like an avatar, like a supreme personality. But he is also a jiva. Equally, Lord Shiva, he has powers and prowess which can surpass even that of Lord Brahma. Someone can say, well, how can that be? He is the sun. Rudra came from the third eye of Lord Brahma when he was angry at his son's inability to become Prajapatis. how can Rudra be superior to Brahma? And that is a whole tattva, that is a whole complex tattva, but we should understand, and Srila Prabhupada gives this example, that there are certain qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There are 64 qualities which Krishna possesses, and there are 60 which of those qualities which Lord Vishnu possesses. And of those 60, 56 Lord Shiva has, and then Brahma has 48, and so do the living entities have 48. And we won't exhaustively go into that, but Lord Shiva has qualities which are beyond even the attainment of the jiva. And yet he doesn't exhibit all of the full qualities which even Vishnu will represent, and which obviously Ishvara Paramam Krishna will represent and portray. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada gives the example that as milk can become yogurt, we understand that yogurt and milk are fundamentally the same product. They have the same constituent parts. It's milk. Milk is milk. Yogurt is milk. But there's, in the way that milk can become yogurt, yogurt cannot be reverse engineered into milk. So we can see that one is an extension of the other, but is an irreversible extension. So Lord Shiva is an extension of the Supreme Lord. He is above Jiva Tattva, but he is not quite the same as Vishnu Tattva, Narayan Tattva. He has his eternal abode even beyond this material creation, known as Kailash. It is beyond the material creation. So he has his abode. It is not quite Vaikuntha, but it is beyond the Viraja river. So he is an eternal form of the Lord, and he performs this particular function. He also enters into the eternal pastimes of the Lord. Lord Shiva once desired to be part of the Rasa Mandali and to dance with the Supreme Lord. And desiring this entrance, the gopis saw him with his matted locks and covered in ash and skulls around. He said, "You can't come to the Rasa Mandali looking like this." So he was invited to take bath in the Kund and don the appropriate appearance for the Rasa Mandali. So he went in and he came out, and he came out as a beautifully complexioned, dark-skinned young cowherd girl, dressed in a beautiful sari with a small moon in her hair. And that representation of and her particular service was to stop people entering the Rasa Mandali who did not have the adhikar to be there. So wherever you will find a great temple of Lord Krishna, you should know for sure that they will be a great temple of Lord Shiva. And that temple of Lord Shiva will be protecting that particular dham, so that people who haven't got the proper entrance or adhikar cannot really enter into the spirit of that dham without the permission of Mahadev. Now, in Vrindavan, the name of that temple is Gopeshwar Mahadev. Gopeshwar Mahadev. So only by taking the blessings or receiving the blessings of Gopeshwar Mahadev can we enter fully into Krishna's pastimes. Now, of course, one may say, well, Srila Prabhupada said all you have to do is take shelter of the ISKCON temple to enter into. Yes, because by taking shelter of Srila Prabhupada, who is a great acharya, obviously one of the four Sampradaya acharyas, there are four acharyas of the Vaishnava Sampradayas, Lord Shiva, four Kumaras, Lakshmi Devi, and Lord Brahma. By seeing a great acharya giving this mercy of the Dham, i.e. Srila Prabhupada, automatically Gopeshwar Mahadev will become pleased, and he'll give us that entrance into Lord Krishna's pastime. And then it's another important thing to be said is here it is said the Supreme Person of Godhead in his form of Brahma and his form of Vishnu and his form of Rudra. So we've mentioned that Brahma is a jiva. So how can that be a form of the Lord? Okay, the position is ordained by him. The Raja Guna avatar is ordained by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But there's also a unique nuance that we should know. And that is, while usually the post of Brahma is occupied by a jiva, on certain occasions, that jiva, and particularly, in fact, on a specific occasion, when the Supreme Lord descends once in the day of Brahma as Sri Krishna, Rajendra Nandana Krishna, On that same day of Brahma, Lord Chaitanya also descends. And when Lord Chaitanya descends in that day of Brahma, and we've done the calculation previously, I ask you all to look up the specific numbers. But when Lord Chaitanya descends, Brahma actually leaves his post as Brahma and enters into Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. And he comes as none other than Srila Haridas Thakur. Now, and Haridas Thakur, as we all know, or as we may or may not know, is the Nam Acharya. He is the Acharya of chanting the holy name. And Haridas Thakur actually leaves his body in the arms of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on the shore of the ocean in Jagannath Puri, with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's tears being the final bathing, providing the final abhishek for Haridas Thakur. And Haridas Thakur, the jiva of Lord Brahma, then attains Goloka Vrindavan. So effectively, Brahma has left the building. He's exited. And at that time, the Lord steps in and occupies directly or through his expansion, his angsa, the role of Lord Brahma. So once in the day of Brahma, or after that point in the day of Brahma, the Lord himself is actually occupying the post of Brahma. But up until that point, it is a jiva that is occupying the post of Lord Brahma. This is an important distinction to be made. So, carrying on from the purport, it was destroyed by him in the form of Rudra or Shiva, all in due course. This creation, maintenance, and destruction are nicely explained in the Bhagavad Gita 8:19-20 as follows. Bhuta Gramma sa evayam Bhuta Bhutva Bhutva Pralilyate Ratragame Vashaparta Prabhavati Aharagame Parastasmatu Bhavonyo Vyakto Vyaktat Sanatanaha Yasa Sarveshu Bhuteshu Nashyatsu Na Vinashyati Nashyatsu Na Vinashyati. The number of the material world, the nature of the material world is that it is first created very nicely. Then it develops very nicely and stays for a great number of years, even beyond the calculation of the greatest mathematician. But after that, it is again destroyed during the night of Brahma without any resistance. And at the end of the night of Brahma, it is again manifested as a creation to follow the same principles, maintenance and destruction. So let me read specifically, because I thought there was an important verse from Bhagavad Gita, 8th chapter, 19th verse. So that is the first verse, which is Bhuta Gramma sa evayam Bhutva Bhutva Praliyate Ratyagame Vasha Parta Prabhavati Aharagame. Again and again, when Brahma's day arrives, all living entities come into being. And with the arrival of Brahma's night, they are helplessly annihilated. Okay. So the purport here by Srila Prabhupada is the less intelligent who try to remain within this material world may be elevated to higher planets and then again must come down to this planet Earth. During the daytime of Brahma, a day of Brahma is 12 of Brahma's hours, they can exhibit their activities on higher and lower planets within this material world. But at the coming of Brahma's night, they are all annihilated. In the day, they receive various bodies for material activities. And at night, they no longer have bodies, but remain compact in the body of Vishnu. So this is an important point. In the day, they receive various bodies for material activities, but at night, they no longer have bodies, but remain compact in the body of Vishnu. So it may often occur to people that if you have these universes with these 14 planetary systems and unlimited planets within those universes and 8,400,000 different nomenclatures, right, which roughly speaking are split into 400,000 are humanoid, 200,000 are mammals, 200,000 are aquatics, 200,000 are trees, 2 million, 2 million, 2 million, and 2 million are birds of flight. You have this 8,400,000 nomenclatures and this whole variety. But then at the end of Brahma's 12 hours, everything becomes annihilated. Where do all the jivas go? Where do all the jivas go? We understand that the material elements go into the Mahatattva. But Krishna is saying, Natva eva hamjatu nasam, natvam ne me janadi bahat, nacheva nabhavishya mahasarve vayamataparam. Never was there a time when you do not exist. You, nor all of these kings, nor in the future shall any of you cease to be. So what is this annihilation that we're talking about? The soul cannot be annihilated. The elements go back into the Mahatattva. Fine. Where do all the jivas go? All the jivas go into the body of Vishnu. Now let's recap. Who is Vishnu? What is Vishnu? Often we hear the terms Vishnu, we hear the term Narayan, and we hear the term Krishna. And what to speak of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? And Vishnu, Narayan, Krishna, these all become interrelated. So Vishnu is actually known as the Purusha avatar. Vishnu is Narayan in the material world. Narayan, four-armed Narayan, the four symbols of Narayan are the Shankh, the conch, the Padma, the lotus, the Gada, the mace, and the Chakra, the disc. These are the four symbols of Narayan. Narayan lives in Vaikuntha with Lakshmi Devi. When Narayan comes into this material causal ocean in order to create the material world, actually only through Narayan's influence, the Supreme Lord's influence, when Narayan is operating in that function and is not there within Vaikuntha, so the form of the Lord within Vaikuntha is known as Narayan. The form of the Lord who is here in the material world is known as Vishnu. When Vishnu is here in the material world, he becomes the Purusha avatar, the source of the creation in this world. He then has three forms. Karana Dakshay Vishnu. Karana means the cause of creation. Karana Karanam. Sarva Karana Karanam. Who is the cause of all causes? That's Karana Dakshay Vishnu. Mahavishnu. From Karana Dakshay Vishnu, millions of universes are created. And in each universe, the Lord expands himself. That is known as Garbho Dakshay Vishnu. He becomes the support. From his garb, from his womb, Meru comes, a lotus comes. And around that, all the planetary systems are circulating. They're like discs, like donuts on a peg. That peg, those donuts are the planetary systems, and that peg, which is holding the donuts in position, around which the universes are suspended, that peg is Mount Meru, which is coming from the garb. And on top of that is Brahma. He's sitting on top of that lotus. Garbha Dakshay Vishnu. Karana Dakshay Vishnu, Garbha Dakshay Vishnu. And then in each one, but Garbha Dakshay Vishnu is the cause of creation. He is so vast, even though he's a fragment of Mahavishnu. We can't even fathom how big Mahavishnu is. From one of Mahavishnu's pores, a whole universe fits in. One pore of his skin, a whole universe can fit in. Beyond our comprehension. Garbha Dakshay Vishnu is as big as the whole universe, beyond our comprehension. When the Devas want to interact with the Lord, they go to the Lord who is lying on an ocean of milk, Kshiro Dakshay Vishnu. So whenever you see the Lord Vishnu depicted, he's often on Sheshnag, and he's on an ocean of milk. So there's a planet called Shwetadweep, the white planet within this universe, where Kshiro Dakshay Vishnu is relating. And that is where Brahma goes to pray to. So in short, when all of the universe is destroyed in half of Brahma's day, all of the jivas don't go to Kshiro Dakshay Vishnu, don't go to Garbha Dakshay Vishnu, but they go to Karanya Dakshay Vishnu, get absorbed back in. And they go into a dormant state. See, I'll carry on reading the purport of 819. This is important. Then again, they are manifest at the arrival of Brahma's day. Bhutva praliyate. During the day, they become manifested. And at night, they are annihilated again. Ultimately, when Brahma's life is finished, they are all annihilated and remain unmanifest for millions of years. And when Brahma is born again in another millennium, they are again manifest. In this way, they are captivated by the spell of the material world. But those intelligent persons who take to Krishna consciousness use the human life fully in the devotional service of the Lord, chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thus, they transfer themselves, even in this life, to the spiritual planet of Krishna and become eternally blissful there, not being subject to such rebirths. So the point that I'm really trying to make here is that often, I think complacency, and I'll speak for myself, can creep in. We have access to the highest, and we've been given it so easily by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that sometimes maybe we don't value the opportunity we have to go back home to Godhead. Maybe we can't fully comprehend the urgency of going back home, back to Godhead, seizing this opportunity of serving Srila Prabhupada and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and how rare this gift is. You know, if somebody just comes up to you and gives you a check for $1 billion, just casually, and you see a few other people who he's given it to, you might say, oh, just put it to one side. Maybe you don't value it in the same way. But if we think about how many different forms of life there are, and how if we leave the human form of life, we have to cycle through all of these forms of life again. And if we then think that if this universe becomes annihilated, we may be in a dormant condition in the material, albeit in the form of the Lord, but in a dormant condition for millions upon millions upon millions of years. And maybe not even human years, maybe millions of years of Brahma. And all of a sudden, and if the prospect of that, not being able to return home to us, to our eternal spiritual life, we to really contemplate that. Wouldn't we take the opportunity to take to devotional service that much more seriously? I think this is something which always, whenever I read this part about the annihilation and how the soul can just basically be in purgatory, in a limbo state for an indefinite period of time, then you think, okay, Srila Prabhupada has given us this opportunity. We have to take it very, very seriously. So going to the next verse, which is then quoted, which is 820. Parastasmatu bhavonyo vyakto vyaktat sanatanaha yasa sarveshu bhuteshu nashyatsu na vinashyati. Yet there is another unmanifest nature which is eternal and is transcendental to this manifested and unmanifested matter. It is supreme and is never annihilated. When all in this world is annihilated, that part remains as it is. Krishna's superior spiritual purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Krishna's superior spiritual energy is transcendental and eternal. It is beyond all the changes of material nature, which is manifest and annihilated during the days and nights of Brahma. Krishna's superior energy is completely opposite in quality to material nature. Superior and inferior nature are explained in the 7th chapter. So this again, sometimes we may have had a moment. We may have had a moment when things are just perfect. You know, all of our family are around. Maybe our guru is there. Maybe we've, our football team has won the league or the Champions League, and everyone is there celebrating. We think, wow, this is a perfect moment. If only I could capture this moment and stay in this moment. Everyone around me is happy. There's not a care in the world. This is perfect. But to even desire that means fundamentally to misunderstand the nature of this world. You see, that tendency to capture the beautiful moment is stemming from the soul. The soul, even when it is in anguish in the spiritual world, it is happy. Because even when it is in anguish, remembrance of Krishna is more acute, Vipralambha. And even when it is joyful, the remembrance of Krishna is absolute, Samphoga Bhav. But in this material world, any kind of enjoyment is very fleeting. Matra sparshas to konteya sutoshana sukadukata. That winter and summer seasons are coming and going, coming and going. The superior energy, the Vaikuntha, the absence, kunta means suffering, Vaikuntha, the place where there is an absence of suffering, which is Sachit Ananda, which is eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. That is the place where we can truly be happy. Because happiness, which we know has an end and will be replaced by suffering, is that really happiness at all? Oh, you're going to have a wonderful time on holiday, but when you come back, you're going to work for 11 months and 2 weeks without stop. Is that really enjoyment for 2 weeks if I know that for the following 11 months and 2 weeks, I'm going to be suffering? Is it really enjoyment? Whether I have those 2 weeks or I don't have those 2 weeks, as soon as that holiday is over, it means suffering. So is that really happiness at all? And that's why this point it's very important to understand the rarity of this human form of life, to understand that everything around us is going to be destroyed, to understand that bottling the precious moments in this world is not possible. And actually, it should be a reminder that we need to go to a place where those precious moments, those moments of enjoyment, can last for an eternity, all eternity. And that is not just a utopia, a far-flung utopia that's unattainable. That is actually the nature of our existence. That's actually the nature of our true existence and of our form of true existence in the spiritual world. And we've been given this unique opportunity to go back to our true existence. Do we want to spend millions and billions of lives in a purgatory with an unknown future? Or do we want to seize it fully, completely? And just in this life, Prabhupada is saying, in this life itself, we can attain the supreme perfection. If the Acharya says it, then it must come true. Okay, so we've still got a bit of the purport left. The nature of the material, sorry, going back now to the verse at hand, 2:10:43, back to the purport. The nature of the material world is that it is first created very nicely, then it develops very nicely and stays for a great number of years, even beyond the calculation of the greatest mathematician. But after that, it is again destroyed during the night of Brahma without any resistance. And at the end of the night of Brahma, it is again manifested as a creation to follow the same principles of maintenance and destruction. The foolish conditioned soul who has taken this temporary world as a permanent settlement has to learn intelligently why such creation and destruction take place. Why do they take place? Why does creation and destruction take place? The fruitive actors in the material world, fruitive actors means anyone who is looking to enjoy the fruits of their activity, are very enthusiastic in the creation of big enterprises, big houses, big empires, big industries, and so many big things out of the energy and ingredients supplied by the material agency or material agent of the Supreme Lord. With such resources and at the cost of valuable energy, the conditioned soul creates, satisfies his whims, but unwillingly has to depart from all his creations and enter into another phase of life to create again and again. To give hope to such foolish conditioned souls who waste their energy in this temporary material world, the Lord gives information that there is another nature which is eternally existent without being occasionally created or destroyed, and that the conditioned soul can understand what he should do and how his valuable energy may be utilized. Instead of wasting his energy in matter, which is sure to be destroyed in due course by the supreme will, the conditioned soul should utilize his energy in the devotional service of the Lord, so that he can be transferred to the other eternal nature, where there is no birth, no death, no creation, no destruction, but permanent life instead, full of knowledge and unlimited bliss. This temporary creation is thus exhibited and destroyed, just to give information to the conditioned soul who is attached to temporary things. It is also meant to give him a chance for self-realization and not for sense gratification, which is the prime aim of all fruitive actors. So it's interesting. And I think, you see, on the one hand, yesterday was Gita Jayanti, and His Grace Govinda Prabhu from Chowpatty gave a wonderful class. And I think we can deal with 3 points here that has been addressed in this paragraph. The first is where Srila Prabhupada is talking about fruitive actors are trying to make big enterprises, big houses, big empires, big industry, so many big things, and wasting all of his life energy without contemplating that he is going to be destroyed, they are going to be destroyed, and this whole universe is going to be destroyed. So is that really a worthwhile engagement of one's energy? But people may turn around to the devotees and say, well, you're being very hypocritical. You're being very hypocritical. Big prasadam distribution, big printing press, big books, big temples and big effort. Why are you putting so much effort into creating an international society? Why are you going to all of that effort? We can say, if everything is futile, why is Krishna yesterday, Gita Jayanti, 5,200 years ago, Krishna Arjuna Samvade in the conversation between Krishna and Arjuna. He's saying, go ahead and fight this big battle, this big objective. Isn't that just a waste of energy? And Arjuna is even saying to Krishna, let me just go and renounce. And Krishna says, you're trying to speak like a wise man, but this is just foolish. So the point is that the activity can be big, but the objective of that activity should be to purify ourselves to be able to go back to Krishna, or and in so doing to facilitate the purification of others. Hastinapur, Indraprasth, Dwarka were big cities, beautiful cities, beyond anything you can imagine on this world today, beyond New York, beyond Dubai, beyond Mumbai, beyond LA, beyond Singapore, beyond Hong Kong, beyond Nairobi, beyond Dar es Salaam, Jahan, you name it, nothing in terms of opulence, in terms of beauty, in terms of magnitude, nothing. Zero the cities of today are in comparison to those. These are ordained by the Lord and the Lord's devotees. But ultimately, all of those things were designed in a way for what? That society may be able to be coordinated towards its ultimate purpose, para upakar, towards the highest welfare work. Beautiful temple, even till today, they have ancient temples in Srirangam, in Kanchipuram, in Jagannath Puri, ancient temples, Madurai. Why go to all of this effort of big temples? Why? Because big effort to create a big monument whereby people can feel inspired to come and attain their true position in life is worthwhile. And also, according to Daivi Varnashram, we are endowed with karma and guna. We can't deny it. Some of us are naturally artistic. Some of us are naturally gravitate towards business. Some of us naturally gravitate towards administration, towards chivalry, towards heroism. Some of us are naturally more academic, studious, renounced, detached. So we do have proclivities. We can't deny that we do. But the point is to understand our proclivities and to engage our proclivities and surrender the fruit of our proclivities, not to ourselves, but to the Lord. And what does it mean to surrender to the Lord? Yes, it can mean that I go to the temple and the fruit of my activity I put into the hundi. But more than that, it means that I will make a contribution to society which will enable other people to be able to take their innate ability and the fruits of their innate ability and give it to society. Giving to society means what? Giving to society means allowing people to operate in a more Krishna conscious way. A big temple may inspire people to go in and chant their japa and sit in front of the Lord. A beautiful Krishna conscious community may inspire devotees to come together and encourage their children to associate and grow up in that environment, away from the negative effects of Kali. Good protection. People who have heroism. We know that there are worshippers of Lord Krishna who are in jail just for the fact that they worship Krishna. They've done nothing else but chant Krishna's name, and they've been put into jail. People who are protective should be able to do a big enterprise to be able to protect those people. Just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when they called Bangadang, when they broke the Mridanga in Navadvip, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu roused thousands and millions of people to come and say, hey, this is not correct. So big things have to happen. Big things have to happen. But the fruits of these big things, are not to be enjoyed by us. That is the point that Srila Prabhupada is making. We are not there to enjoy the fruits of these actions. We are there that if big fruits come, these big fruits are coming in order to facilitate the devotional service of others. And therefore that activity can go on. You want to make $1 billion? Go ahead and make $1 billion, but don't apply that $1 billion to, 100 super yachts. Make a beautiful city, which is protected, which has plenty of grain, which has wonderful gurukuls, which will allow people to also in themselves be able to engage their own proclivity in the Lord's service. That is the point. We are entitled to achieve big things, but the fruits are all there to serve the Lord. And the way that the Lord is served the best is when his devotees are served the best. What can you do to a king? You can't help the king, but if you help somebody that is very dear to the king, you capture the king's heart. So work on behalf of serving the devotees, serving the living entities of this world, creating imaginative ways to reconnect them to the Lord is the greatest welfare work you can do. And you can think big. Srila Prabhupada thought the biggest. Srila Prabhupada thought the biggest, but he was not a fruitive actor. He was not doing it for himself. He was doing it to glorify the Lord. And therefore, none of his efforts should be considered temporary. They are eternal. They are echoing eternally. Even if one devotee goes back to Godhead, Prabhupada said, even if one devotee goes back to Godhead, me traveling around the world 14 times, translating 70 books, making 5,000 disciples, would have been worthwhile. Why? Because he has created an eternal benefit. Even if it's to that one jiva, that is an eternal benefit, which is more than the sum total of all of these governments for doing all of these things. And they may be wonderful initiatives, they may be terrible initiatives, but the one thing they have in common is that they're temporary. Temporary benefit. Temporary benefit to all, or eternal benefit to one. Eternal benefit to one will out-trump temporary benefit to all. And so then we have the final point here, and I'll wrap up on this. The temporary creation is thus exhibited in Shloka just to give information to the conditioned soul who is attached to temporary things. Akinchana gochara. Akinchana gochara means we need to come to the point of being materially exhausted. Materially exhausted. In the words of Sriman George Harrison, I've been to the top of the wall. I've seen everything that the world has to offer, all indulgences, breaking all 4 regulative principles to the nth degree. There's nothing there. There's nothing there. Anyone who has worked hard to make something has got that money, you think it's going to be transformation. Then it's hollow. Within a moment, it's hollow. You win the league, the World Cup. Yes, I spent my whole life training for this moment. The next day, it means nothing. Everyone's thinking about the next World Cup. Your yesterday's news. Who's going to win the next one? It's fleeting, it's nothing. Temporary. Temporary means it may not have existed at all. It is also meant to give him a chance for self-realization, not for sense gratification, which is the prime aim of all fruitive actors. So you become a kinchana gochara, you see that there's a temporary nature of things, and then you are able to purify your proclivity. Instead of indulging in your proclivity, you can indulge in your proclivity. You realize indulge in your desires, I should say, realize it's fruitless, and then take that same proclivity, but engage it in Krishna's service through Devi Varanashram. Devi Varanashram means I engage whatever talent, skill set, ability, desire I have for the upliftment of someone else. You want to be an artist, don't go and spray paint and graffiti. Draw beautiful pictures which attract people to Krishna. You like to cook beautiful prasadam, offer it to the Lord with love and distribute it to people so they may become more conscious of Krishna. You like to build buildings. Don't build something which is nonsense tenement, but build something that can be engaged in Krishna. So every single you like to fight for Dharma and protect the devotees of Lord Krishna. Don't go to the UFC boxing match. You can become a boxer, even go and become a world heavyweight boxer, but take that money and use it to engage in Lord Krishna's service. So, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. I try to run through a whole bunch of topics there. If there's any questions, comments, corrections, I'd be open to field them now. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Very inspiring as always. Prabhuji, I missed one point. You said the Virat Rupa was seen by Vidur, Bhishma, and?
Dronacharya. There's a reference that Dronacharya could partially see, and this was the partial Virat Roop, mind you. This wasn't the Virat Roop on the battlefield, which was only Arjun could see. Arjun could see it, and I think Sanjay also saw vicariously by the mercy of Srila Vyasadeva. But this is the partial Virat Roop, which was given when Krishna came as a messenger on behalf of the Pandavas.
So, Prabhuji, which was that Virat Roop that Duryodhan saw? Because he also saw it and he said, this is Krishna doing his mystical things.
So the point was that everyone else could not see beyond the Brahman. And they thought that this was something, they thought because they could not see the true glory of the Virat Roop, because obviously Yoga Maya had come to intervene. Yoga Maya, even Mahamaya, but certainly Yoga Maya had come to intervene. They didn't have the Adhikar. Therefore, they couldn't see the Virat Roop for what it was. There's something about it was like a million suns. So they thought it was a party trick. But those people who had the Adhikar could see that the Lord was demonstrating himself to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
So it was this Virat Roop, but a partial form of the partial Virat Roop that Duryodhan saw.
Just like the light, we cannot see the sun globe because we cannot see beyond the effulgence of the sun. In the same way, the effulgence of the Virat Roop was so blinding that without the ability to see beyond it, they couldn't see the Lord for what he truly was.
Thank you, thank you.
They had some indication of what the Lord was doing, but they could not properly perceive it, fully perceive it, I should say.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Are there any questions or comments by the group? So I guess there are no questions, but the point has been driven that why are we doing this endeavor of creating whatever little we are creating and then it's going to get destroyed? Might as well go to the spiritual world where everything stays the way it is. So thank you very much, Prabhuji, for today's session. Hitesh Prabhu, would you like to end the session for the day today? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, I've never done that. Please do it.
Okay.
I'll learn for the next time.
There's nothing to learn. We just recite the Vanchakalpatarubhyascha. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for today's session. Let us all unmute and recite the Mahamantra once in glorification of Krishna Arjuna Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhayeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
ISKCON Eldoret ki jai.
His Grace Krishna Arjuna Prabhu ki jai. Granth Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Sat Vaishnav Vrind ki jai. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for making it. I know you are in transit somewhere, and in spite of that, you have come for the class. So really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Going nowhere fast. That's the story of my life.
That should be our motto too. Some of us are aging, so we have somewhere to go very fast, so not to waste any time.
That's it.
Okay. Hare Krishna.